Wasabi guys, welcome back to another top 10 Commander video. This time we're going to be taking a look at my picks for the 10 best Commander cards from the Innistrad Midnight Hunt set. This is going to be a little bit weird because we also have in these sets Commander cards that do come in boosters, but they're not technically part of the main set. They have a different set symbol even. I will not be talking about those for this list. If I ever do, it'll be a completely separate one. So before I get into the video, first I would like to remind you, as always, if you have not subscribed, please consider doing so. Most of you who are watching right now are not. I really do appreciate it. It helps me continue doing what I love doing. Number 10, we have Lord of the Forsaken. This is kind of a weaker set for Commander. I don't want to say it's a bad set. It's just a lot of cards that you see in here. They're very specific to a mechanic, and that's kind of typical of Innistrad as a set because you do have a lot of flip cards for werewolves. You have the Nightbound and Daybound mechanic. A lot of that is going to be anchored to Innistrad, so you're not going to see as many universally playable cards. Lord of the Forsaken is a lot like that because this is a set where you have both Flashback and Disturb, so you have both abilities that you can cast spells from the graveyard with, making the second ability where you pay a life to add a colorless pretty valuable. The first activated ability, however, I think is going to be the best here for any kind of mill decks that are also going to focus on things like Flashback too. I could also see this in some other decks that are not necessarily with those two mechanics I previously mentioned. Carador Ghost Chieftain is a good example of this. You are casting a creature from your graveyard. It is a bit risky. I think it has some potential though, which is why I put it here at number 10. Number 9 is another card that's a lot like that. Moonville Regent, a 4-mana red dragon. Whenever you cast a spell, you get to discard your hand and draw cards equal to the colors of that spell, which is really nice to have. It's a bit awkward though because you want this kind of card advantage in red. Of course, just playing mono red's not going to get you a ton, so multicolor decks are going to get a bit richer with something like this, and when it dies it deals X damage to any target where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. Really cool card. I love that first trigger. And for a lot of decks that are just about dumping as many cards into your graveyard, getting a fresh set of cards, and then continuing the process, this is going to be perfect. Granted, you are going to want to play as many colors just to get the most out of it, but this is the kind of card that is meant for Commander. It's meant for a format where you can play as many as 5 colors and still have an efficient deck. And then number 8, we have Memory Deluge. 4-mana instant. You look at the top X cards of your library where X is the amount of mana spent to cast it, and then you put 2 of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, and the flashback is 7. So if you pay 7 off that flashback, you will get to look at the top 7 and then put 2 more into your hand. I really love this as a great instant to throw into a lot of instant and sorcery spell slinger decks. Flashback is making a comeback, so remember we have that 7 commander from a couple years ago. This is perfect. It's instant speed, so it means that if you're someone who likes to play fact or fiction, this is something you might consider playing over that, because you are giving yourself the option of keeping 2 cards. It's not really up to your opponents to mess with you. And then number 7, we have Unnatural Growth. This is how weird this set is because you do get some good cards that you could see as staples, but it's in combination with all this other weird stuff that's awfully specific with Innistrad. So Unnatural Growth is 4 green mana, which means that, yeah, you're probably going to stick with the fewest colors possible. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until the end of turn. If you needed yet another way in combat to win, if you're playing mono green, here you go. If Craterhoof Behemoth from Avacyn restored, if that wasn't enough of a 1-card win con for you to win, Unnatural Growth is not only a way for you to easily win, but it's also a way for you to be more defensive too because it's each combat. Not a complicated card to understand, and that's why I think a lot of people are going to want it for their decks. Number 6, we have Ferry, who slows the sunset. Now there are 2 other planeswalkers here. We get Ren in 7, and we also get the return of Arlen Cord, but Ferry to me is clearly the strongest. You have the best plus, being able to untap or tap whatever you want pretty much. You have a decent -2 to get some card advantage, and the ult is as powerful as ults tend to be. Pretty much a no excuse to lose at that point kind of ult. For 4 mana, you have a reasonably costed planeswalker, and that's kind of the secret here to good planeswalkers, is that you don't really want to have to pay any more than 4 or 5 mana. And that's even for Commander too. If there's a downside, it's that Teferi's not really going to inspire any new strategies, and that's why I don't typically put Planeswalkers on my top 10s. It's just, wow, you get another Teferi, number 1 million, I guess. But he's still pretty powerful, and yeah, he deserves to be on this list. And then we have number 5, Giza Glorious Resurrector. Now imagine if you took Tergrid, but you made Tergrid a lot more fair. That's kind of what you have here with Giza. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. That's been powerful. We're seeing a lot more of this, just the ability to affect your opponent's graveyard strategies. That is so powerful in Commander. If you're able to match what, in my opinion, is the strongest, or at least one of the strongest strategies, you're setting yourself up pretty well. You also get to steal those creatures that are exiled with Giza. They do gain Decayed, so it's not like you have this crazy board presence that's going to block that you can just keep attacking with, so it is a little bit balanced in that way. But I think just the inclusion of that first trigger means a lot for this kind of creature. Whether you decide to play her as a commander or one of the 99, I think she's pretty well balanced. And then number 4, we have the Werewolf commander option, Tovalar Dire Overlord. This is it, folks. You finally got your Werewolf commander that actually synergizes with werewolves and also wolves. And with the inclusion of the Daybound and Nightbound mechanic, there's more involvement here too. It's going to be easier to manipulate that, but even just ignoring that, the abilities are what you want. We've never had a legendary werewolf that both synergized and also offered you card draw. And then once you flip him, you do have basically a Kessig Wolf Run ability, which means that in combat you have a way of winning and dealing commander damage even. I don't want to say that werewolves are going to be a strong strategy in Commander, but here we have the necessary support to at least make them viable. And then number 3, we have Leer, Disciple of the Drowned. These top 3 cards I think are just going to be ridiculous in Commander. And this one, Leer here, is only number 3 because I think people just maybe won't want to play her because of how overpowered this ability is, in combination with the fact that spells can't be countered. Each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback, and that's it. It's not a condition like until end of turn. It's not a once a turn thing, it's all of them. So it's like if you took Snapcaster Mage and Cast Dissident Mage and decided, you know what would be really powerful if we took what was already a good competitive EDH commander and made a condition that not only was better, but made it also so that the spells can't be countered. So you play her, you go off on a turn, there's nothing they can do. Granted, you aren't going to be playing all 3 colors in cast, but still, that is insane. Leer is going to have an instant home in so many decks. Number 2, we have Vanquish the Horde. One of the best cards from Innistrad, any Innistrad set period, is Blasphemous Act. I've said this several times before. Vanquish the Horde is like that, but in white. Yes, it's not a need that needs to be filled in white as much as it was in red, but this cost reduction, making it essentially only 2 white mana to destroy all creatures, means that Vanquish the Horde will be an instant staple in white decks, just like Blasphemous Act is an instant staple in red decks. And that's really it. You don't even need the regeneration condition. Only 2 mana to destroy all creatures is ridiculous if people think that paying 1 white mana to exile 1 is powerful. So I hope that puts things into perspective. Number 1, my favorite card from this whole set, and the card I think is going to be the best in Commander, the Meathook Massacre. X into black for this legendary enchantment. It enters, each creature gets -X/-X until end of turn. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain a life. This is bonkers. This is just an auto-include in just about every black deck that I can think of. -X/-X is awesome removal. It gets around indestructible creatures like Avacyn, Angel of Hope. Talked about her a lot recently. Gets around some other painful things to get around in black like Sigarda, Host of Herons. If you've ever used Blood Artist and Zulaport Cutthroat to win a game because you had some sort of infinite combo, well, Meathook Massacre is yet another way to combo like that, offering you another combo piece if you needed one. Outstanding card, awesome mythic, going to be a chase card in my opinion. Going to be strong across formats, so definitely look out for it. I think it's the best card in the set easily. So let me know what you think of my 10 picks of the best Commander cards that come from the main Innistrad Midnight Hunt set. Commander Void here signing off. I will see you all next time.